Welcome to Coffee Connect, everybody. I'm Roddy. I'm the host. We are going to have a great conversation today with Shirley Pastore McCormick. Before we do so, just some quick announcements and stuff. If you enjoy today's conversation, you want to be included on the weekly emails that come out and talk about what the upcoming topic is, I would encourage you to email me at ccinfo, right? Coffee Connect info at addictedtoconnecting.com. The website also, addictedtoconnecting.com, has our Zoom link and our email and stuff in it, so you can always go to the website and get to us. And that way I can add you to the invite list if that's something you're interested in. And so this week, guys, the calm advantage, stress for less, achieve more, right, with Shirley Pastore McCormick. Guys, this came to us. This has actually been in the works probably for 2 or 3 months now. We've been trying to get it on the calendar, and there's been obstacles, but I will tell you, it didn't curtail us from finally getting here. And so I'm not wasting any more time. I'm going to turn it over to Shirley.
Good morning. So let me just make sure I share this here.
Perfect.
Okay. So is that in there? Are
Yep.
you able to see the screen? Okay. It's great to be back after dealing with stress of my own in the past year, and as a recovering perfectionist. And given that April is Stress Awareness Month, I didn't know this thing existed until I started looking up on topics. And I thought it would be a great way seeing that Rodney's head is on fire with finals coming up, it would be a great way to talk about the calm advantage. Because when we're dealing with stress that becomes chronic or leads into burnout, it starts to hamper our ability to think. It affects our health. So this is why I wanted to discuss this today. Just a short background for those who don't know me. I am a recovering perfectionist. That's what I tell people. And I'm a Duke Health trained health and wellness coach. I teach mindfulness. I teach stress management with a lot of people, and help people in and out of transition when they're dealing with just life challenges. So again, it being Stress Awareness Month, it also is a good time, I think, when these awareness months come in, just to think, where am I? How am I doing right now? And to understand where stress might be impacting our lives when we're on autopilot, because we just tend to forget when we're in the grind. And my intention when I was coming up with this program was to think about something where you don't have something else that you have to do again, as much as something you get to do for yourself so that you can recalibrate when you need to. Whoops, going backwards there. Just a bit of an idea of what the stress cycle looks like. So regardless of whether it's periodic, there's a couple of different types of stress that happen, right? So there's good stress. So think about things that motivate you to get things done when you need to get things done or succeed, like a final exam or a business deal, or preparing to get hired for a job. There's a lot of workload on there. There's a lot of uncertainty. The difference is when it becomes a strain and we can't manage that, and what it's the impact it starts on our brain as well as our body. Bear with me, I'm just trying to deal with the screens here. The big difference right now is looking at what does it take to get into recovery? What does it take to get into that rest and restoration and resilience? What are the microsets that we can use to get us back on track when we feel like our brain is running faster than our mouths, or our mouths are running faster than our brains? And the big difference being between which part of our nervous system is engaged. Does anybody know the difference between what is called the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system? If anybody wants to speak out, if they know what that is. Nope. Okay. You have what's called your nervous system, your autonomic nervous system. You either have the gas pedal on or the brake pedal on. And when we're under stress, you can get which one is out of control. And the trick to all of this is to figure out why did we get stuck in that, and how can we bring back a sense of balance and homeostasis. My whole goal with this is for you to leave with a few things, to understand how stress affects our thinking, our energy, and our decisions, and to learn a simple 60-minute tool before a high stakes moment to help you with your self regulation, and to leave with a realistic 7-day personal resilience plan. Yes, it's doable. Let's look at stress versus burnout. Overall, when I'm saying SNS, that is a sympathetic nervous system. That's your gas pedal. Okay. So when we're in a stressful situation, there's a demand on us. We're taking resources. We're trying to balance a variety of different things. And it's usually followed by, let's talk about the example again of Rodney. I'm just going to keep throwing you over the bus, Rodney.
All good.
The whole fact of, you have something temporary that's going on. You have a test coming up. You also have a job. You're also doing things at home. But then once the test is over, the stress levels come back down unless there's something else pulling at you. So it's something motivating. It can be healthy. You have a short-term thing, and then you get to recover. The trick becomes when we are faced with burnout is when the gas pedal gets stuck at on and we don't know how to shut it off. We never have a chance to recover. It starts to impact our decisions. It starts to impact our relationships. The output that we're putting out just isn't the greatest. And then there are long-term impacts if we don't know how to shut it off, especially if we're in a high demand situation or if we're under a lot of stress from change that's going on within our lives. It's not a personal failure when we go into burnout. It is a natural reaction to the pressures that are happening to us at the time. And it's just a survival response. The human brain, when we came to be, was designed to survive lions, tigers, and bears. And now we're in this, at least in the developed world, the lions, tigers, and bears have turned into deadlines, cranky clients, jobs in the job market, all of these different things, financial things. It's all coming at us on top of anything that's happening in our personal lives. And the brain cannot tell the difference in a life threat between somebody yelling in a coffee shop versus a bear about to pounce on you. When you've been through burnout, I would be curious, or in chronic stress, if anybody could share what has helped them in the past. If anybody just wants to pump in it,
I would love to share. Let me pop my. Can you see me? Oh, no.
Yes, hello.
Hi. So this topic hits deep for me. For those who don't know me, my name is Brian Elliott. I didn't realize I had a substance abuse. The substance isn't what other people tend to abuse. I'm the substance, but I still abuse myself. So I'm recovering. And when you say a perfectionist, it's interesting because it isn't that you have to be perfect. None of us are. But when you strive or you're chasing greatness, how do
Yes.
you turn that off? And I don't understand the layperson because I've been so hyper driven in everything because of my spiritual beliefs. And, just to throw a little excerpt, Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things. I really took that literal. There's nothing I can't do that isn't scalable, measurable, or obtainable. So I
Mhm.
was like, I'm going to be the best at everything because I just don't believe nobody's going to can outwork me. And
Mhm.
that was where I went to the hospital last month because I started to um, basically just worked myself out to where I didn't even realize I was sleep deprived. So what I was able to do is to take some of these things and not burn myself out, but really being like, you can actually delegate these responsibilities to others. So thank you so much for allowing me to share. I really appreciate it.
That's great. Anybody else have to share with that? And with Bree mentioning himself being, what the substance abuse, does anybody know what perfectionism really is? It's a type of anxiety, trying to beat the system, right? I'm gonna be able to do this. I need to get it done. I need to get it done. I need to get it done. Nothing is less than, the best. And then it's not only that perfectionism, I think that Bree mentioned, as much as the self-talk that's happening in our minds when we are trying to get things done. Anybody have any ideas to share on what that self-talk might look like?
Um, this is Daniel
Hey,
Johnson
Daniel.
Jr. I also am a recovering perfectionist. Sometimes I do really good at it, sometimes not. I think for me is that I hold myself to such a high standard. Just to echo what Bree has shared a little bit, is I hold myself to such a high standard and expect so much out of myself. And then when it turns out that I don't meet that standard, that's where a lot of that additional stress and frustration comes in.
Yeah. Trying to get the A, right?
Well, trying to get
Michael?
all A's, trying to get all A's. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Nothing is as good as that A. Yeah. No, I get that. Michael?
Yeah, let me share something with you. I'm a heart attack and stroke survivor. So the
Hmm.
thing with me is that, uh, even though I had people tell me that I couldn't recover,
Mm-hmm.
I'm that guy that never liked to hear the word no
Mm-hmm.
because I know what I'm capable of doing. And so when I first started this business, I had three small businesses before I had my heart attack and stroke, but I'm that guy that can't sit his old behind down. So
Yeah.
I had to find me something else to do, in which started this business I'm in now. So,
Yeah.
my goal is to, I'm gonna tell you, every day I wake up, who can I help today? That's how I wake up. It ain't about me. It's who I can help. So, my mission, I'm so passionate about healthcare. You guys will find out about that, but I thought I had the best healthcare in the world, and I found out I didn't. But it took me having a heart attack and stroke to realize what healthcare companies do. Thanks for allowing me to share.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else want to share a story?
I'll just
Watch.
give a little something.
Go ahead.
Um, for a lot of people who were working, COVID didn't change a lot of people. There are some folks that COVID absolutely touched and it altered them, but there were a lot of people that it didn't really uh, shift them. But for me, I found myself unemployed, living by myself in the city, and a lot of people left the city to get out.
Yeah.
I'm a natural extrovert, and to be, sort of forced into myself so much created a situation where I had to face a lot of burnout while dealing with some depression issues at the same time because
Mhm.
of COVID. And everyone knows me, knows that I'm really big into cycling. And because, yes, the bike trails are open, but like none of the cafes, none of the restaurants, none of the restrooms were open. Um, I started having like anxiety related shutdown. And I had to admit some days it's not going to be perfect. I just have to accept a level of uh, progress and not perfection. And
Mhm.
some days are just going to look like maybe you didn't feel really accomplished at the end of the day, but you got a few things done that's going to make tomorrow better. And you have to make peace with the idea that no matter how early you get up or what you did throughout the day, there's going to be days that are just chunky and frustrating and weird. And it's better to sit in the authenticity of recognizing that rather than saying, well, that didn't affect me. So anybody who really says COVID didn't affect them at all, I think you're full of malarkey. And uh, I really think that for someone who says things like, "Oh, they'll tell you their spouse died 6 months ago, but they're fine," malarkey. They lost their job, they're fine, malarkey, right? And I think the sooner you can express a level of authenticity, and obviously not every relationship is one that has the privilege of sharing full authenticity with each other, but I think there's a way to allow yourself to feel those feelings
Yeah.
and help yourself in those situations to get to a level of progress above and beyond those situations. But you
Yeah.
can't just like beat it out of yourself. You can't just ignore what's
No.
happening.
No. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cancel out the share. Has the share come off? I just want to make sure I'm not as familiar with Zoom, because I think this is actually more going towards a discussion. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of a background as to why I headed into this when I talk about being a recovering perfectionist. Worked in higher education. I did some career changes, went into communications, was also a mental health advocate. I was home with my kids because I had health issues at the time. So I left a job that I was doing, and always trying to beat, trying to be number one, trying to do other things. I have joint hypermobility, so I tend to disjoint easily. And what has that meant when you don't control, when you're trying to keep everything going and perfect and running around and not taking care of yourself? I wasn't participating in a lot of these meetings in recent months because I blew a disc in my back. And I didn't want to come to meetings from the couch and on a pillow. I did it once or twice, and I thought, I think I'm going to wait until, I get this sorted. Things such as that. And having a family member die unexpectedly over the pandemic as a result of the pandemic, not from COVID, from mental illness. It makes you pull back and see, where are we taking care of ourselves, right? So here I am. For 14 years, I've taught mindfulness, self-care, right? And I'm good at telling people how to do it. I'm not always good with myself, and I'll admit that. And when my sister passed away, I went, you know what? And it led to being violently ill after she passed away. And then that went from, I had long COVID for a year, pretty sick, in and out of the hospital. And then my back blew, and I'm like, all right, where am I not taking care of myself? And it's because of the perfectionist in me. I think about these runners, the Boston Marathon was just recently, and they're going up Heartbreak Hill, and some of them are like almost physically crawling because they've blown something, but they're going to keep going no matter what. And it's that metaphor that no matter what we're doing, for some of us, when we're not caring for ourselves, is we don't know when to pump the brakes. How well are we doing if we're running on empty? So just a little bit of science nerd in me here in wellness. I'm just going to describe to you what the stress loop looks like. So you're facing something, right? Any of these things that we've talked about, or something, you're on a job hunt, you're transitioning, you're trying to build a business. Your brain is looking at that stressful event. And not only is it determining, is this dangerous, right? You also have things that have happened in your past where you're going to figure out how you're going to fix it, and how you perceive how serious an issue this is. All right. So if you've had something that really went wrong in your past, part of your brain is going to be stressing out thinking, I really have to make sure I get it right this time. Okay, so it's the perception in the brain, and then it sets off the autonomic nervous system, which is sympathetic, which is the gas pedal, all right, parasympathetic, which is, you know, roses and everything like that. It's the relaxation response in the brain. But what happens is not only when we go into stress do we start to feel it in the body. You have two different areas of your brain. One is called the amygdala, and that is the mammalian brain. It's the one that's based on fight, flight, freeze, run, emotions. Okay. You have your prefrontal cortex, which tells you executive functioning. This is how I'm going to make these decisions. This is how I'm going to do things calmly. When you're in the stress loop, which one do you think is working?
Mhm.
How well are you thinking? If it's chronic stress, okay? So I'll put that in there. How well are you thinking?
Not well at all.
Nope.
Mhm.
Nope. Because the emotions are taking over. And that leads to not only things, the changes in the brain set off the nervous system, right? Goes down to your adrenal glands, which sit on your kidneys. What do the adrenals do? Cortisol, stress, 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 pump it out to run. But we're not running. We're sitting at a desk, or we're at a meeting, or somebody's screaming at us, right? And your heart rate's going up, headaches, tension, fatigue, your gut could be all over the place, your moods are awful. And then it changes your behaviors. What are you avoiding? Where are you overworking? What are you withdrawing from? How good is your focus?
Not good.
No. And so you have that loop from what you see to how the nervous system responds, to the body changes, to the behavior. And then it keeps going if you don't break it. Just going in cycles, and it can intensify, and then you're getting exhausted. You're like that runner on Heartbreak Hill going, all right, Jesus, this has got to stop. What do any of you know? What is one part of the body that can stop that? Does anybody know? Take a guess. What's one action?
Deep breathing.
Breathing.
Yep. Your breath, right? So it depends on the kind of breathing you're doing, right? So Brian, you mentioned the deep breathing. If I'm up here in the chest, what is that going to do?
Cause you to
Make it worse.
hyperventilate.
Mhm.
The
And stress you out
hyperventilation.
more.
Yes, right. And so if we go with intention down into belly breathing, there's all these studies that have been done on this. Okay, so it's not just something I'm picking woo-woo out of the air. All right. We start with not only belly breathing, but how we breathe. What kind of breathing would that look like?
Slow.
Long, deep breaths.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of minutes, and I'm going to invite you. You could shut off your cameras if you want. All right. We're going to try something. Closing the eyes if you want to. You don't have to. Getting comfortable in your seat. And noticing your posture. Okay. Feeling your feet on the ground. You can even wiggle them if you want to. Notice when you're sitting in the chair. This is the mindfulness part. Does your back feel tense? Just notice. Where are your shoulders? Do they feel tense? So on the inhale, bring the shoulders up to your ears, tense them. And then when you exhale, drop it down. And again, bring the shoulders up to the ears on the inhale. And then drop them on the exhale. Becoming aware of your breathing. And inhaling through the nose. And the exhalations are going to come out slower. Breathing in. Slow exhalations. Thoughts are going to come in and out. Anchor your attention to how you feel with the breath. Now scan from the crown of your head down the back of the head to your neck. Just notice. To the tops of your shoulders, down your arms, coming back up the arms to the shoulders, to your chest, your back, your belly, your seat, down to your feet. And now open your eyes. Okay. Okay. If anybody wants to share any shifts you might have noticed, even if they were small ones. What do you notice?
My breathing got better.
What else did you feel in your body?
It was more relaxed.
Where were your thoughts? How were they?
A lot clearer because I guess because I'm discharging everything mentally out of my mind and just focusing. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I have less tension in my neck and my shoulders.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of tricks I used in here. All right. The first one being that a lot of times we're carrying tension in the body and we have no idea until we bring attention to it. So bringing the shoulders up and then bringing them down, dropping them. You can even tense your body, really tense, 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 and then release. And you start to notice that that comes down. So there are different ways where you can bring tensing and releasing into your body to bring attention to it and then go into the slower breathing. And as a result of that slower breathing, the thinking part of the brain starts to switch back on, away from the emotions and the tensions that are happening in the body. So by doing a behavioral change and action, it actually switches to different areas of the brain that you're using, opening up clearer thinking, All right. And even now, I will tell you each time before I speak, I try when I come to these things, the perfectionist starts and I start talking really fast. And then once I start grounding, I start to talk slower. What do people notice if you start to talk more calmly? Anybody? I'll give you an example. Go ahead, Daniel.
No, I was just thinking that my I slowed down a little bit and I'm paying attention a little bit more clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. How does your body feel once you've done this? Daniel, how did you feel?
Well, I'm more relaxed and then it's kind of
Mhm.
like more or less and more attuned, instead of being, I know whenever somebody else is talking to me and I show up excited or animated or maybe more too much so,
Yeah.
they, I start to mirror what they're doing.
Right. So the thing is if someone sees you calmer, how are they going to be? Right. It's all in the reaction.
You're also
And
be you're also going to be more intentional. When you're
yeah,
stressed, you're reacting, not responding. And so
right.
when you're able to be calm and focused, you can respond with intention instead of reacting.
Right.
So when I worked at Home Depot years and years ago, one of the techniques they taught us that, if you're with a difficult customer, one of the de-escalation techniques is, you the more upset they get, the more calm you get. The
Mhm.
louder they get, the quieter you get.
Yeah.
And, that's supposed to help, I guess, de-escalate that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And because we're moving from reaction to actually um, when we notice things and we also become more aware of how we are acting, there's that awareness. So when we're in stress, we may not be aware of how we're acting because we also lose track of how our body is behaving. There's this disconnect that's going on, so that when we go back into regulating ourselves, it creates a whole different dynamic, not only in ourselves, but how people are responding to us. So the key principle when you're going into a stressful situation is to address your state first before you strategize or react, right? Because if we're going, as Carla said, if we're acting more out of the stress and the emotion, it's going to be a very different outcome. It can be a very different outcome versus when we're regulated, right? So the breath slows the heart rate slows the mind down, the muscle tension goes away. If you're one of those people whose stomach is, in terrible knots, it starts to relax. The brain, again, clearer thinking because we now have the prefrontal cortex online instead of the amygdala, which is saying run, fight. Right. Right, Carla. Some people are trying to get you to react. Yeah. And those are people who are probably also not aware of where they are. They're probably disengaged from that.
Absolutely. It's pre-wired in them and
Yep.
they're reacting to what they've pre-learned in life, not
Yes.
being intentional.
Right. So when we think of a difficult thing or something that is fairly stressful throughout your week, I invite you, if you have a pen and paper, to take that right now. We're going to start thinking of a tool, right, for the week, because we just had our reset. So the reason why I brought this reset in is we tend to de-stress in all other ways, like running, swimming, going out for a walk, but you can't do that when you're in that one situation. So this is where the intent of centering yourself comes in. So think of something that is coming up this week or something that normally brings your blood pressure up. Okay, whatever that is, you can write that down. All right. So for example, it could be a client call, could be a financial decision before a job interview, right? And the breathing we just did, the tensing, the releasing, you could do a combination. What's the practice that you want to put in before you engage in that situation? And if it's something similar to what we just did, to write that down, what that is. Is there a boundary? What is one boundary you need to put in? It may not pertain to what you're dealing with. There may be one you need. What is the one support, whether it's a person or a resource? And how are you going to track this? How are you going to grow your habit? So one practice, one boundary, one support. How are you going to track it? When I mentioned growing the habit, what's the reason I mentioned that?
You don't put it into practice, it won't become a reality.
Correct.
It won't. You know, we're wired by the way we respond and do things.
Right.
So
yes, I had a teacher come up to me. I did a workshop on this about 10 years ago with some teachers in Cleveland Public Schools. And I had a teacher come up to me who was like this. He was just shaking. He couldn't stop. And he said, I need to know when to do it when it happens. And I said, okay, what you need to reassess is it's not just using this breathing when something happens or the grounding. It's building that neural pathway in your brain so that you will already be steadier. I won't say steady, could be steadier when you go into that situation. And unless, as Carla said, we practice it, we might forget to use it. Any thoughts on your plan?
You know, let me say this. I agree with everything you guys are saying because after my stroke, I used to shake a lot, and it would cause me to have seizures, and it was only from sitting up. And when I learned how to get up slower, that's when I stopped having the seizures. So it's first of all, you got to admit that there's a problem, and then you got to take action.
Yeah.
What caused the seizure? And the reason why it was caused is because each time I had the seizure, I actually was uh, laying down and I started to sit up, and then my body started shaking. And then I said, you know what, Mike, you got to get a handle on this. And so I started getting up slowly instead of fast.
Mhm.
And now I haven't had a seizure in over 3 years. Well, one reason was because they was threatening to take my driver's license. But I didn't want them to take my driver's license, so I had to do something.
Mhm. So it's not just these centering practices, it's what Michael is saying that who knows what the term mindfulness means? Anybody want to take a shot at it? Being aware in the present moment without judgment. And so, Michael, you were aware,
Yeah.
honing in on the body and going, I need to listen to my body. I need to adjust to what my body needs.
And sure, you're definitely right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's not only the calming that we bring in, it's also some of this. We're on autopilot for a lot of the ways we behave on a day-to-day basis. And by slowing down how our brains are thinking and how our bodies are reacting, we become more aware and sensitive to the fact of what's good for me, what's not so good for me. How can I help myself?
Right.
To be not only a more effective person, this has cascading effects on your work, your relationships. This is a holistic thing that we're talking about. Any other thoughts before we close this up? No? Well, thank you for your time, for putting your brake pedals on today. And if you have any questions, what I'll do is I'll put my information in the chat. Okay?
Awesome job, Shirley.
Thank
Give it up
you.
for Shirley, guys. Listen, we can't. It's 10:48. We got a lot of time left in the day yet. So, listen, get out there, meet some people, impact those that are around you, and have a great week, everybody. I love you guys. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.